Friends, today we're talking about the portion of Bechukotai, and the gift, the 33rd gift today, is about loyalty. Loyalty. And when you think about loyalty, what exactly is loyalty? There are different definitions in the dictionary. To be loyal, to be faithful, but defining the parameters of loyalty, that we do not find in the dictionary, but we find it within Judaism. If we have to describe relationship between man and his God, we would think of different metaphors. One of them is a servant and a king, a son and the father above, or the rabbi and his student. These are the metaphors. But the most common metaphor in Judaism for the relationship between God and man, you won't believe it, but it's the relationship between a man and a woman. And so says Jeremiah, I remember you the faithfulness of your youth, of the time of our marriage, that you walked after me in the desert, in the land that is not sowed. God remembers the honeymoon stages that he had between him and the people that he took out of Egypt. Or Solomon the king in the Song of Songs says, you should put me as a sign on your heart, or as a sign on your arm, as a sign of love, eternal love between me and you. And obviously the whole Song of Songs is a metaphor between God and his people. So our question is today, why is the most common metaphor between God and man is the metaphor between man and his wife? We even find it in the times of the temple. In the times of the temple, there was the Holy Ark in the Holy of Holies, and there was two cherubs, two basically statues of a boy and a girl. And so the legend says that if the people of Israel were coherent with God, they adhered to his commandments, these two cherubs used to be hugging or facing towards each other, and the people of Israel see that they pleased their Lord, their God. But if they didn't do as God commanded, then those two cherubs faced from one another. And we understand that this is quite peculiar to describe the relationship between God and man, okay, humanity and man, as a relationship between man and a woman is problematic. What comes out of this understanding? The relationship between a woman and a man is obviously love. And love we see in the Mishnaic text in the Ethics of Our Fathers, chapter 5, Mishnah 17. And there they tell us something very fundamental. Love that is dependent on a certain condition, if the condition is void or nullified, then there is no love. But love that is not dependent on a certain condition, unconditional love stays forever. And we understand even the love between man and a woman. In the beginning, there's no such thing as unconditional love. There's always interest. A man wants something, a woman wants something, they get married. But after a few years, if the marriage is successful, then they connect within their soul. Then really they reach the high level of unconditional love. And unconditional love leads to faithfulness, leads to loyalty, to true loyalty. So now we understand that love and loyalty is embedded in the relationship between God and humanity. Now, God and humanity, we see loyalty in two aspects, or in two covenants. One, in the covenant with all the creations in the world. After the sons of the Noah comes out of his ark, and God says, I shall not bring a flood anymore to this earth because I made a covenant. It's a covenant with humanity. But in this week's portion, there's also a covenant between God and his people. We know it's controversial between the Jewish faith and other faiths. Who is the chosen nation? But we are going with our week's portion, and it's very clear what's happening in this portion. Because of God's unconditional love, the verse in the end of the book of Leviticus says as follows: even if they're exiled, even if they're despicable, even if they do wrong, I will not remove them. I will not despise them. I will not break my covenant with them, because I'm the Lord their God. The covenant between God and the Jewish people cannot be removed, cannot be cut, cannot be overridden by any other matter in this world. It is a joint covenant that stays forever. It's loyalty. Loyalty that withstands all the atrocities that the nation does towards their God. The golden calf, the complaining in the desert, the sins of worshiping idols within the land of Israel. Jeremiah says that. The verse specifically in the portion of Bechukotai in the end of the book of Leviticus says that. It's about loyalty that is unconditional. But the story is not about the people of Israel. The story is about the gift that we're talking about today. Loyalty. From what we said until now, we can redefine the concept of loyalty as Judaism wants to redefine it for us. If you look in the dictionary, loyalty has only words that accompany it. Loyal, faithful, like we said. But what is the definition of loyalty? The greatest discovery that we're making today is that loyalty has to be unconditional. And what do we mean by that? The prophet Hosea brings us the ultimate example. Hosea is asked by God, after a discourse with God brought in the Midrashic texts. The discourse is as follows. God comes and says, oh, the people of Israel have sinned. So Hosea, instead of saying to God, save them like Abraham did, like Isaac, like Jacob, he says, you know what, get rid of them. Choose another nation. So God says, is this the case? Let me teach Hosea, the prophet, a lesson. And he tells him, go and take a woman that is a harlot, prostitute, and marry her. Her name is Gomer. And she is obviously, as a harlot should be, not faithful to him. She sleeps around. And she has 3 kids with Hosea. The first is called, I will not give you comfort. And the other kid, the name is Lo Ami, this is not my nation, etc., etc. He brings him or teaches him her lesson by telling him to marry this harlot. He loves her very much. And now God tells him, look, she's not faithful. Send her away. And Hosea says, but I have 3 kids with her. I love her. This is unconditional love. I can't remove her. So God reveals himself. And with a twist of the plot, he says, now you understand my relationship with the Jewish people. I took them out of Egypt. I took them to the desert. I brought them to the promised land. But they did not stay faithful to me. They worshipped idols. They betrayed me. The right thing to do is to leave them, to remove them. But I can't, because my love to them is unconditional. All the water in the world, as Solomon says, cannot extinguish the fire of love that I have and the unconditional love that I have for the Jewish people. And in the end of the book, in the end of the chapter there in Hosea, Hosea has a revelation. And what is the revelation? He says the Jewish people shall not be called anymore Baali. God is not called Baali. Baali is in terms of my owner. Baal is an owner. But you will be called Ishi. Ishi is my spouse. With one verse, Hosea gets it. The relationship between me and my wife, or between God and the Jewish people, is not a condition love. Not a condition. It's not a connection of ownership, but it's a connection of soul, of unconditional love. Loyalty that whatever you do to it, you cannot topple over. And with this, loyalty is redefined. Loyalty loyalty according to Judaism is redefined. Just like God shows us loyalty, we should show him loyalty also. And we should build the concept of loyalty again. Something that is unconditional. Something that is not built on interest. Something that is built on a deep connection between the souls and bringing them to cling to one another. Loyalty with no boundaries. So today, friends, we redefine the term loyalty. It's a very high level to get to, and doesn't really work out in some marriages. But loyalty is, in this week's portion, redefined.